Hello guys, this is WorkCrow, and today I'll be bringing you guys a visual guide on Void Arc, a part of patch 3.1. As goes light, so goes the darkness. Void Arc is the new 24-man raid that drops item level 200 gear and accessories, and also a token at the end for beating it. This is WorkCrow, and I'll be guiding you guys through this hellacious bullshit. Okay, now moving on. This first set of trash is pretty much simple fare. Just burn it down as quickly as possible. I don't think there's any AoEs you guys need to worry about. Just tanks, pick them up, burn them down, and move on to the next set of trash. The first trash mobs in this dungeon are nothing to be too concerned about. I'm like I said, I'm a full strength tank, no vitality, and we pretty much burn through these guys relatively quickly. The only trash mob that proved to be any type of, well, not so much a concern, but just a little something extra to look out for is the last trash mob in the first set of pulls. But as you can see, just burn them down as quickly as possible. Healers, make sure to watch everyone's health. Things can get a little hectic with all these column AoEs flying out, but just tanks, try to aim them away from the group, burn down as quickly as possible, and move on to the final set of trash before the first boss, which is by far one of the cooler bosses we fought. Like I said, this last set of trash, like I said earlier, watch out for that. The boss Cetus shows up and drops a water bomb in a random spot. If you are caught in it, it will deal massive damage. If you are unprepared or undergeared, you will possibly die. So be sure to watch out for that AoE and burn these guys down as quickly as possible. And let's move on to the first boss of this instance. The first boss of this instance is the giant stingray Cestus. Honestly speaking, I'm not sure what he reminds me of. He reminds me of a boss in Koyo, I just can't remember it. Cetus is pretty straightforward. He has a backwards conal attack called Electric Swipe, and he has a circle AoE called Body Slam. Body Slam will target one random member in the raid, and then he will attempt to crush them with all of his might. Everyone be sure to watch out. Make sure you're not standing in it because it tends to happen rather fast. Now, he will cast Plunge and then Symbiosis. I'm not really sure what this does because everyone in the raid pretty much just moved out of the way, but from what I've seen, it drops water puddles, and if you're standing in there when he does electric swipe or some type of electrical attack, you will take massive damage, so be sure to avoid them at all costs. Now, it's about 75%, he will summon a group of ads. These ads need to be burned down quickly, so everyone needs to pull off a Cestus and burn these ads down as quickly as possible. The ads attach a column to whoever they're targeting. If these ads are not killed in time, they will one shot and kill whoever they are targeting. So tanks and DPS, pick them up, especially if they're on the healers. If they're on the healers, burn them down as quickly as possible so you don't wipe. I've been in groups where this has happened. No one paid attention to the ads and we wiped. Things get interesting at about 60% when Ceased summons another group of ads, and this time he doesn't just stick around. He then flies over the group, dropping water bombs that deal massive damage, as you can see here, to pretty much anyone caught in the blast radius. Try to pull your ads away from Ceastus and burn them down as quickly as possible, making sure that no one gets one-shotted, because trust me, that will suck. He would do this about, I think, twice before he targets a random member with Body Slam and attempts to wreck their lives. Like I said, just get out of the AoE and make sure you're burning down ads and watching healers. Make sure you're watching everyone's health. The healing can get a bit intense right there if people aren't watching out for the water bombs. After he comes down, he will begin to charge a room-wide AoE that where the only safe space is under him. Everyone stack in, and then immediately once it's over with, spread out, making sure not to be behind him to where you're hit by electric swipe. At this point, pretty much the phase 1 repeats where he summons ads, although if I remember correctly, he doesn't fly over your head. So just burn those ads down as quickly as possible until you enter the last phase of this fight. Once near death, Ceastus will fly to the middle of the room, pulling some members in while pushing others away. At this point, the group inside needs to focus on burning down their orb, while the group outside focuses on burning down the 3 to 4 orbs that surround them. If these orbs are not burned down in time, the entire wave, to my knowledge, will wipe. Like I said, my group did not stick around to see what was going to happen. But to my knowledge, if for what I've heard is correct, the raid will pretty much wipe if this is not done as quickly as possible. So yes, I guess you can call this a mini DPS check, although not much of one. Afterwards, Ceastus will target one random member and do body slam. After that, just pretty much burn down till he's done. Now, moving on to the second set of trash. This trash has a mechanic to it. Once you enter this room, the room will begin to fill with poison, and the pods that spawn need to be killed immediately, as quickly as possible, or else the poison stacks will overwhelm the healers. Not even the amazing May could heal through this type of damage. Burn down the pods as quickly as possible. As to once you see that your platform has been fully charged, all 3 spots need to be stepped on so the poison can be drained out of the room. To my knowledge, tanks, just pretty much pull everything onto the pad, so that way when they're fully charged, it'll just automatically drain the poison. That way you don't have to constantly be like, oh, run over here. Like I said, let's keep it simple. Midway through, Marlboros will spawn that need to be killed as quickly as possible. I would designate one tank to pull both Marlboros and one healer to pretty much make sure that tank stays up. Pretty much burn it down, and we'll move on to what we're looking at here, the second boss, Sawtooth, who shares a lot of similar mechanics to Cerberus from, well, Crystal Tower, the first 24-man raid we all got. Now, Cerberus, Sawtooth has an interesting mechanic. Underneath the timer, there is a rage bar. If that bar hits 100%, the raid will auto wipe, no questions asked. Now, the way you stop this is that when Sawtooth summons the fly ads, they need to be killed before the Venus flytrap thing he's tethered to eats them. It also works if he eats a party member like he just ate me right there. For each thing that he eats, he gets plus 5 stacks to the rage counter. If once he gets to 100, like I said, he will auto wipe the raid. So don't let this happen. He will occasionally do mucus bomb, which will pretty much do moderate to light damage, and I think it applies a poison stack to whoever it hits. It's not that big. Healers just heal through it, and everything should be fine. But the bugs will spawn periodically throughout the fight. Make sure DPS is on that. The way we went about it was putting melee DPS on Sawtooth and range DPS, or I think magic users, on the Venus flytrap tether. Because if you're not attacking both, there's some weird mechanic where he gets those rage stacks a lot faster, and he'll wipe the raid. And wiping is, as with anything, is bad, and you don't want that to happen. So just make sure you follow the basic mechanics of this fight, and Sawtooth will go down relatively quick. He's not a hard boss. But just make sure everyone's watching out for the mucus spray. Healers, make sure you're on that. DPS, make sure you're picking up the ads as soon as they spawn. As to not let the stacks get too high, because like I said, wiping, that's not something you want to do in this situation, especially since you've come so far. Now, with that being said, what we found the best thing to do is to have 2 tanks. The other 2 tanks just kind of sweep the room. We didn't do it here, but another raid we did. Just have those 2 tanks sweep the room while the DPS works on it, because the ads are not hard to kill. They're actually relatively easy, but you don't need DPS running all over the place and someone getting eaten because they're not paying attention, and you add another stack. At about 50%, he will start charging up Shockwave Stomp. This attack cannot be stunned or interrupted, so just do what you're seeing us do. You run behind the Venus flytrap, although not everyone was smart enough to do this. Hide behind the Venus flytrap, away from the attack. If you are hit by it, well, you will see what happened to those 3 people. You will instantly die, no questions asked. After that, pretty much all phases repeat, and just burn him down until he's dead. Now, moving on to the next set of trash. This trash was extremely easy. Pretty much just tank spank tanks, pick up what you see, and DPS burn it down. Healers do heal through everything, make sure no one dies. Unless you're a Ver, then just be too busy typing and we all die. Make sure you watch out for the roar that these hellhounds tend to use. It does moderate damage. A competent healer shouldn't have any issues with this, but just be on the lookout for it just in case. It's if things get too much for the healers, then everybody kind of pack in for a group heal. But like I said, you're here, so you're idle level 179, so I'm gonna assume you're pretty good at your job, and I don't have to worry about babysitting you. Also, be sure to watch out for those column AoEs. That shit hurts. Please, I'd rather not be in a raid with someone and they don't know that that's happening. But standard fare here with the enemies. Burn them down, get out of here. Let's move on to the next, and who is by far possibly the most hard boss I've ever fought in the history of Final Fantasy. Yes, he's a lot harder than the Great Moogle King. We'll leave it at that. But compared to him, the final boss is a fucking cakewalk. But yeah, we'll get to that soon. But I'm pretty much showing everything in its entirety, so you can pretty much get a feel for how things are done and just how fast the DPS was for me. And how I guess how fast DPS kind of needs to be. You don't have to go with this team composition if you don't want to. But let's move on to the second boss. Well, third boss. The third boss is one of my favorite espers from Final Fantasy XII, Chuchulain the Impure, and he works a lot like he did in there. Chuchulain will have this random AoE, frontal AoE that is not telegraphed, except, well, it is by him looking at you, but there's no AoE on the ground. So what you want to do is anytime he turns to look at you, move out of the way. He will use corrosive acid or something like that, and that shit hurts, and if you're unprepared, it will kill you. Like, no, even tanks. It is pretty much, I won't say a tank buster per se, but it hurts a lot. He will occasionally use Tentacle Slam. Now I messed up here. I ran away way too far. I learned in the later versions of this dungeon, doing it with May, who you've all seen before, and her husband Kel, that you can just stand in between the tentacles and they don't hit you. That would have been nice to know before I did this, so that way I would not have been running around like an idiot. Now he will at about what? At about 50%, he will summon these, not 50, about 70%, he will summon these towers. These towers need to be burned down as quickly as possible. Healers, be prepared. The longer the towers stay up, it applies a bleeding stack to everyone surrounding it. I think, matter of fact, no, until the entire raid. So you want DPS, please switch off for Chuchulain and burn these down as quickly as possible, because the bleeding can overwhelm healers, and I've seen it happen, and I've had raids wiped because of that. But once all the towers have been dealt with, everyone return to Chuchulain and burn him down until he enters the next phase. At about 50%, he will do what you just saw, room-wide AoE called, what was it, something bile. Everyone needs to jump on the pass to avoid being wiped by this massive room AoE. Sometimes later on he will use this mechanic again, but there will be dangerous orbs that are up there. Also, make sure that no one is just standing on the pass prematurely, or else he will shoot some type of corrosive acid. And the last thing you want is to jump on the pad to dodge that, and you're dead from corrosive acid. At about 50%, he will use a large roar attack, which summons these ads. These ads need to be kept out of the conal AoE that he then begins to use. If Chuchulain is allowed to eat any of the ads, he will gain a stacking buff. And at the end of this entire encounter, he will launch a room-wide attack that is capable of killing, depending on how many he's eating. One is okay. Two, you're pushing it. Three or four, you might as well get ready to wipe. So make sure tanks pick up these ads and make sure that you are pulling them out of that AoE before he devours them. What we found is just, pretty much just tank them where they stand. Don't move around too much because you don't want to run into one of the AoEs and have him prematurely eat one of the enemies. So just make sure that everyone's paying attention. And yep, even in this phase, he'll use the room-wide corrosive vomit, whatever. That shit hurts. Please stay out of it. But just burn the ass down until the next phase. And pretty much after everything's dead, go back to him, burn him down until he hits about 40%. Now at about 40%, the air will go thick with blackness, is what it said. At this point, he will summon orbs that cover this, the outside wall of the room. The two off tanks need to pick these orbs up and eat them. DPS can eat them, or healers, depending on what you're comfortable with and where your health is. I would recommend just having the tanks do it, but if the tanks can't get to them quick enough, DPS, it is okay to eat one to help things out. If those orbs are not eaten, then the raid will of course wipe. It seems to be a theme with this dungeon, wiping us for limited mistakes, but that is the way of Final Fantasy, and that is the way of a 24-man raid. You need cooperation. Pretty much at this point, all phases repeat until the boss is finished. I think all phases but the slime eating phase. No, I think that phase repeats too. Yeah, so pretty much everything repeats at this point. So just make sure that you're paying attention, eating the orbs, and dodging his corrosive acid vomit because you don't want to die. After defeating Chuchalin, you will go into the next and final boss of this dungeon, Echinda. This boss is reminiscent to the first turn of the Coil of Bahamut. This boss has some pretty easy mechanics, and and like I said, if you made it this far, she shouldn't give you any problems. Pretty much start the battle, burn her down, and dodge these big ass column AoEs that she does. Now, at some point, she will target a random person with a massive circle AoE. Everyone needs to stack in on that AoE to split the damage between the entire raid. If you see a weird flashing thing over your head, stack in with everyone so you don't die. I ran this raid again with some more people, and the one guy who had it just kept running away and he just kept dying. So, like I said, long column AoEs, you can dodge those. Big giant circle flashing thing, everyone stack in. That thing right there, you see that? Stack in. See, I was kind of retarded. I was not paying complete attention and almost ran out of it. I don't think it needs the entire raid in there, but just to make sure the damage is as small as possible to make things a lot easier on the healers, everybody stack in. You're going to burn Echinda, or I think that's how you say her name. I'm probably gonna butcher that throughout the rest of this goddamn commentary, but pretty much just tank and spank. That is pretty much what this fight is. It's not mechanic heavy at all. It has a simple mechanic that I'm going to explain once it's time to pop up. Once you burn, oh yeah, she also casts petrification. Oh my god, thank you for showing me that. Pretty much to dodge this, you do what you would do in any other fight where a boss casts petrification. Turn away from them. Um, Pretty much that's all you need to do to dodge petrification. Healers, you do not want to be petrified because she deals massive damage to the tanks with Steel Sickle. And if given the chance, she will cast it back to back and it will pretty much kill the tanks. Now, once you burn her down to a certain percent, she will split and summon 3 snakes. Now, this mechanic is pretty much like the first coil of Bahamut. These snakes need to be separated ASAP. Do not allow them to stay near each other, or else they will gain a stacking buff every couple of seconds. A buff that will pretty much obliterate any tank or anyone who's unlucky enough to be in their way. The tanks need to spread out, pick these guys up, and groups of DPS need to burn down their respective snake. Once all snakes are dead, she will then regroup, and everyone needs to stack in together to dodge the incoming raid damage that she's about to unleash. If I'm not mistaken, that damage is shared amongst the raids, so the closer you are to the rest of your teammates, the better. Because the damage will be shared and it will be mitigated and pretty much be non-existent. Healers, be sure that when the snakes are ready, you have your AoE cooldowns ready, and be prepared for some, not so much intense healing, but just be prepared to get everyone topped off. And pretty much from this point on, every mechanic you just saw repeats until she's dead. Like I said, this boss a lot easier than Chuchling. And there you have it. This dungeon is done. You've done it. You've won. Enjoy your drops, and I hope you get the cool menu. This is WorkCrow, and I hope you guys enjoyed this dungeon guide. See you next time. Bye.